any second now the sun is going to come out from behind some clouds, cast some glorious light on those rocks. So welcome to another video. I'm at a place called Fiddle Rock. So you can't see from here why it's called Fiddle Rock, but that'll become apparent later on in the film when I move further down there. But the cloud I'm talking about is there, and I can see a big band of clear sky behind it, and I know the wind is blowing this way because it's at my back. So the wind is blowing that cloud this way, and in the next couple of minutes the sun's going to come out and there'll be a nice light. But Fiddle Rock, I'm up in north of Scotland. Closest town is a place called Cullen, right on the Moray Firth, and I'm about 400 miles from home. But I know this spot reasonably well, and in fact today I've been swimming in the sea, so not just in trunks but in a wetsuit with the kids. We come every time we're up here. We go, in fact we've been twice already. We go and swim in the sea and it's amazing. I love it. Quite chilly, but it's great. But I didn't know that this existed. Now it looks from here kind of just like a rocky outcrop, but you'll see later. I'm really looking forward to showing it to you. I didn't know it existed. I was doing a bit of research and spotted it on a map, and I thought I'd come and have a look. And when we were swimming up here last week, 5 days ago or so, on the way home, I came by just to check it out. Didn't take any photos or anything, but I just came to check it out because the weather wasn't great. But I kept looking at the weather forecast, I kept looking at the tide, and today's the day, and the sun is about to come out. So I'll go through the composition. It's fairly straightforward. It's kind of a rocky seascape, so I don't want to go too close to the edge, but it's a long way down. Look at that, long way down. So it's a rocky ski. This whole kind of shore is kind of this dramatic kind of shape with rocks and kind of, you know, little coves and stuff. And the composition is just about getting this big rock here and Fiddle Rock kind of balanced. I'm on f/16 just to give me some depth of field, and I've placed the horizon almost a third of the way up because I'm anticipating any second now. In fact, I'll show you, getting a bit closer to the sun coming out and illuminating those rocks. So when the sun hits those rocks, I'm going to start taking the images. I'll just turn that off. But feels great. It's a bit windy. Loads of birds. You can probably hear gulls in the background, but just without the use of binoculars or anything, you can see cormorants and shags and kind of, there's probably a whole host of other birds that I can't see without binoculars. But it's a pretty nice space. And then there's houses there, so those people get an opportunity to look at this view. So waiting for the sun to come out. As soon as the sun's come out, come back and take some photos. I love it when I'm right. So I'm all right. Sun's come out. So it's just, there's a fishing boats out there as well. So when we've been here before, we've seen dolphin and porpoise. In fact, last year I think it was, when we were swimming, a woman was signalling to us from the beach and she was pointing behind us, and when we turned around there were porpoise in the waves over our shoulder. Amazing, brilliant place. I've only ever been here in the summer. I don't know what it'd be like in the winter. I imagine blowing an absolute hoolie would be quite wild. But the sun and the clouds are moving away from the sun, and the sun's going out. It's about another hour till sunset. I just checked the time. Yeah, almost exactly an hour till sunset. So I'm going to take some images when the sun is fully from behind the clouds, because it's lighting the rocks beautifully with some of that lovely kind of evening sun. Is a bit diffused coming through. So I'll brighten it so you can see the composition, but it's fairly straightforward. I've got a balance of rocks. I don't know what that one's called, it might not even be named, but that's Fiddle Rock there. And then I've got these cliffs in the foreground because the sun is shining on them quite nicely. So I'm on f/16. The sky's a little bit bright, but I'm just moving my polarizer around to try and darken the sea a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. So f16, sun is now, I won't show you, but you can see from my hand, I don't want to point you right at the sun. The sun is now shining brightly on those rocks. So taking an image, f16. I've put my point of focus on this cliff face in the foreground, so that should give me enough depth of field to have the cliff face and Bow Fiddle Rock nicely illuminated, and also this rock over here. And I think it's quite a nice balanced image. It's helpful that there's that lovely strip of cloud in the sky, adding some sky interest. So I'm pretty, what do you think? Pretty, I'll brighten it so you can see the composition again, but pretty happy with that. Look at those gulls. I don't know if you can see it on the GoPro, but the gulls are really swirling around, and the sun is, you probably be able to see from my face now, the sun is really shining, so cracking bit of sun on those rocks. So I'm going to take one or two more images and then see if I can move around a bit and check for a different composition. Hopefully now you can see why it's called Bow Fiddle Rock. So natural sea arch, and it looks like the handle of a bow that you'd play a violin with. I get it. It looks exactly like that. But I've just come down. I was up there previously. I've just come down to take a view of the rocks through this kind of natural, I don't know, you call it valley or whatever, but it's because the sun is lighting it so nicely. I'll show you the composition I'm working on. I just thought it was a nice, it's kind of an inviting view down to the rock through that V. So I guess you can see the V shape. I think there's a nice inviting view. I was coming down the path here to actually go up there, which I'll do in a second, but I thought actually that's quite a nice shot. The sun's shining nicely on kind of both sides of the V, but particularly on the rock, so it works well. And I've zoomed in a little bit, so kind of wide open it looks like that, but I've zoomed in enough just to emphasize the V. Hopefully you can see what I was doing there, and I'll take an image, but I'm just going to make the most of the opportunity while that sun is shining. I'm just going to work my way up there and see what the view's like looking into the hole. But that is spectacular. I think it's kind of an absolute wonder in nature. You can probably tell by my face and my squint that the sun is shining brightly. And well, I've come just further round, so that in the previous clip I was talking about that V. I'm stood on one side of the V. And I'll show you the view. What I'm doing is trying to take an image that shows this path heading down towards the rock. Now, obviously the path curves around the cliff side, but I think it's a nice leading line directly towards the hole in the arch. So I'll show you the composition I'm working on. Hopefully the sun isn't shining. I'll get rid of a dog hair from the camera. I'll brighten that so you can see what's going on. So here's the path, obviously, heading round, and then there's the rock with the hole right there in the middle. I think that's quite nice. I've deliberately positioned the cliff edge so it starts in the bottom left-hand corner and then works its way up towards the right. I'll just get the exposure right. Now, one of the challenges is obviously the sun shining brightly on kind of the left-hand side of the rock and onto the grass, but I'll be able to deal with that in Photoshop or Lightroom. But just in case, I'm going to take one image exposed like that and then brighten it a bit and take that one, so I can always use the two to blend together. But I quite like the composition. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. I'm on f16. I pre-focused quite close to him. I used hyperfocal calculation to focus close to me here, so hopefully get a big depth of field showing the path sweeping round and then the rock, and hopefully there's a fishing boat there, so, you know, get a bit of interest in as well. But yes, it's absolutely spectacular. It's amazing. I've driven kind of on the road close to here, you know, dozens of times. but didn't even know this existed until last week when I was just doing a bit of kind of looking at maps and stuff, and I saw Fiddle Rock on the map and I thought, oh, what's that? And then did a bit of Googling. But apparently there's another sea arch further around the corner, so I'm just going, it's probably too far for me to get there and back, because what I'm going to do is, when the sun is right down, is go down, there's a bit of a beach down there, go down and work on some shots through the water of the rock. But I'm just going to work around onto the headland up there and see what I can see. So I'm still on the cliffs, but I spotted these flowers, which I don't think are natural, because we've got them growing at home, and I'm sure they're kind of garden flowers that have escaped. But it just lends a nice angle of colour in the foreground. So you've got the angle of the cliffs and the flowers kind of cutting from right to left, but then the rocks cutting left to right. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So you've got kind of that angle going that way, but then the rock going that way is a bit of a contrast. Maybe brighten that a little bit so you can see. So that direction and that direction. And I quite like this kind of splash of colour in the foreground. Hopefully it works out. But I focused, so my focus point was on the flowers to get them in focus. It's a bit windy, so they probably have a bit of movement in, which is kind of not a terrible thing. But yeah, I just like the contrasting shapes and the fact that there's a contrasting colour. But I'm loving this place. I'm absolutely loving it. This guy down there walking his dog. But I'm going to go down onto the beach in a second. There's probably, let me just check time, how long I've got before. Yeah, so about 40 minutes until the sun is completely down. But what I'm hoping is when I'm down there, sun shines up on those clouds, we get some nice colours, and then after the sun's gone down, maybe kind of a bit of interesting colour in the sky, but gives me an opportunity to do something interesting with the waves in the foreground. But we'll see. Going to head down there now. Took a little bit longer to come down because I had a chat with a bloke, but I'm right down on the beach level, and as you can see, it's just as impressive from down here. There's a cracking view through there. A couple of points during the year, you can get the sun coming up right through the hole in the rock, but not this time of year. Probably, I think I checked about a month earlier than now, so if I was kind of July rather than August, maybe get the sun coming right through there. But just check now, I can't see where the sun is now. It's about another 20 minutes till the sun is completely down, so I'm hoping for a bit of colour in the sky. But I'm just working on composition with this rock leading the eye round, so I'll just show you. So I'll brighten that so you can see. So composition, that rock leading the eye round to there. And it's going about, so I've gone to f22 to give myself as much depth of field and as time as possible, and I'm just waiting for wave. Here comes a wave now. I'll do that one now and see how that goes. But I'm going to mess around with a few compositions, and then maybe when the sun's a bit further down, see what it looks like. Well, the sun is more or less set, I think. Just going to take a shot. And what I'm working on now is a portrait orientation, looking through these rocks in the foreground at the sea arch, Fiddle Rock, but also, I don't know if you can make out, quite nice round pebbles on the beach here. So I'm trying to get the timing right. So I'll show you the composition. It's a bit precarious. I'll show you the composition. So I've got these pebbles in the foreground, and the question is getting the timing right, so that there's waves. Sorry, just altering my polarizer like that, so that the waves are coming across the rock. But hopefully, sorry, I'll put you back to the composition. Hopefully you can see I'll brighten that so you can see. Got the rocks in the foreground. These rocks and this rock kind of point at the main centre of attention, Fiddle Rock. But it's given me a 6-second exposure at the moment. So just working on that, just quite nice. There was another photographer up there, but he seems to have gone. Maybe I was in his way. But getting this tide coming, the tide is going out, so every few minutes there's a different composition. I'm going to play with this. I think the sun is down. Well, it's like 4 minutes from being down, but I don't think it's going to illuminate the sky any. So just working on this with the sea crashing and all. Well, it's not really crashing, but sea flowing in and out. And quite happy to have the place all to myself. But pretty spectacular. Probably the last set of images I'm going to take now, but I've moved just along the shore a little bit because as the tide's going out, it's revealing new and interesting things. So there's a nice big rock here that kind of parallels the hole in both Fiddle Rock. So I'll show you the composition. I'll have to lighten it because obviously it's getting quite dark now. So I've got that rock right in my rule of thirds, intersection of the two, and then both Fiddle Rock is on kind of the top third. And what I'm waiting for is kind of moments like that where the tide comes in and just swirls around the rock. I'm just going to check my polarizers. Okay, I'm on f/22 and that's given me 15 seconds of exposure, so plenty of time for kind of to show movement around the rocks and the swirl of the sea, and flatten out the sea a little bit in the distance so you get some nice kind of, just put my hand, I just did that in front of the lens. So that was a bit daft, but anyway, that's probably the last scene. It's getting a bit dark now, sun's well and truly down, plus the battery on my GoPro is flashing to say kind of low battery, so I'll have to charge that up in the car on the way back. But so I'm going to take it, I'll wait for the waves to come in a bit differently. So hope you've enjoyed this this view of both Fiddle Rock. As I said, I'd never heard of it, never seen it before until a few days ago, but I'm glad I discovered it and came and took some photographs. I've been looking for, since I kind of saw it on the map and did a bit of research, been looking for the right combination of tide and weather. I think I got the weather right, got the tide pretty well. I'd love to come back here when there's big crashing waves, but that'd probably be in the winter. So I'm going to take an image now. Hope you enjoyed that trip. Always interested in comments, always grateful for a thumbs up, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers, bye.